Welcome back, everyone. It's your boy Anthony,
And Gooch.
and we're here to break down episode 5 of The Last of Us.
Ooh.
Endure and Survive. A really heavy one this week,
Man,
guys.
this was a good episode.
Yeah, it was a great episode. Probably our favorite of the 5 that have come out so far.
It is.
And to top episode 3 was a pretty big feat, and I think they accomplished it this week.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this episode opens up with a little baby flashback. I think we get 10 days in the past. So you get to see how the revolution ended in the quarantine zone in Kansas City.
It opens up on a shot of all the people in the city yelling freedom.
Yep.
Freedom, freedom.
Yep, they're shooting their guns. It's pretty much chaos in the streets, honestly. It's pandemonium at that point.
Speaking of editing, there's a really beautiful montage of crazy violence. I mean, it's just quick cuts of Fedra soldiers getting smashed in the face with bottles, hit over the heads with pipes, shot. It ends on actually a symbol of the Fedra logo, and you see someone being hanged in the reflection of the window. So we get a little taste of what we talked about last week, which is, are the rebels any better than Fedra? You know, when it takes, violence begets violence, and so now they have not only taken over, but in a very violent way, and are celebrating violently.
Oh yeah, I mean, dragging a Fedra officer through the streets. He's got knives all in him. I mean, it's really violent. It's really intense. But it also shows how the people have been treated all those years. For them to have all that pent up and to be capable of that kind of violence.
Yeah.
Obviously, Fedra has been treating them pretty terribly for the past 20 years. And you do hear about it a little more as the show goes on, with a few little moments with Henry and Sam and Joel. You get to see a really touching moment with Sam and Henry where, they make it up to that attic. They actually collaborate with the doctor that we met in the last episode.
Yes.
He's actually the guy that had that little hidden place for them.
And actually, before we get to that, we have a little scene where you're introduced to Kathleen again. In the last episode, we're introduced to her talking to the doctor. She's interrogating him, trying to find Henry, right? This time, we go and she walks into a cell full of people.
Yep.
We find out that they've all been collaborators. They were all people who were helping Fedra by selling out their own people, and she calls them out. She's like, does this feel good that you got innocent people killed, that you had them beating us and raping us and murdering us and stealing our food? Right? And she's like, all I want to know is, we've rounded all you up. Where is Henry? And no one wants to give her any info. Then finally she says, well, I guess if no one knows anything, kill them all. Perry starts stepping in with a gun, and some guy immediately speaks up, He's like, he's been with Edelstein. Oh, Edelstein's been hiding out Henry? Okay, cut to this attic, and we see the good doctor, who now we know is Dr. Edelstein, has been the one who helped out Henry and Sam find this attic.
So they get up to the attic. They're limited on food. You could tell that Henry's whole MO is to make Sam as comfortable as possible, to make him kind of not realize what's going on in the outside world.
Yeah.
So he kind of fills that with the distractions. Sam's got his little comic books. He has the crayons to draw on the wall. One thing that Henry realizes is that they only have about 10 days worth of food. So we cut basically to those 10 days. They're low on food. Dr. Edelstein has been gone for a whole day. They don't know where he's at. Yeah. So they're just trying to figure out what their next move is. And in the midst of trying to figure it out, they see Joel and Ellie roll into town, and they catch a glimpse of the chaos that ensued in the laundromat through the window. So in that moment, Henry realizes, I don't know who this guy is, but he's obviously very capable. So let's follow them and let's see if they can help us out. Because inevitably their whole goal is to get out of the city, which is the same goal as Joel and Ellie. We're in the tall building. Sam and Henry are walking in, and they step on the glass.
First little bit.
Yeah.
They hear it immediately, and he knows. Obviously, Sam doesn't hear.
Yeah,
what Henry
Sam
tells him.
Yeah, there's
Noisy.
Yeah. So they're careful, and then it cuts right to where we left off last episode. They've got Joel and Ellie at gunpoint.
Henry always keeps the gun because he hands it to Sam before they walk in that room.
Yep.
And it's a cool little reaction. The kid's like, ooh, and he immediately turns it towards him. Nope.
Nope.
Point it forward.
Yep. Little do we know, there's no bullets in either of these guns.
Which we find out in a minute.
Yeah. So they have Ellie and Joel at gunpoint, and you realize that their intentions are good. They're not there to try to steal from them. They're not there to kill them. They want their help. So they get to a point where, you know, Joel realizes what's going on, kind of lets his guard down a little bit, and then he kind of informs him of their plan. Like, they're trying to get out of the city. He knows that Joel's trying to get out of the city, and he knows that Joel's capable. So we get to the top of the office building during the day. They're kind of looking out to figure out what their plan is. He lets them know that there's this tunnel system under the city that to everybody in the QZ, they think it's full of infected, so nobody really goes down there.
But as he was collaborating with Fedra, he said one of the Fedra people who helped clear the tunnels told him that it is clear.
It's clear down there.
Area. They may be scared, but there's nothing really down there. But it does worry Joel, who's always on point. And he's like, okay, when did they clear the tunnels? He's like, about 3 years ago.
Yeah, so you're like, man, what's going on down there now? So he's apprehensive about it.
Yeah.
So they finally make it into the tunnels, and you see that it's used to be like a little settlement. Like, there's obviously a little classroom. There's places where people were sleeping. There's like little kid drawings all over the wall. So you could tell that there was a group held up under there for who knows how long. They're obviously not there anymore, and we'll get that paid off by the end of the episode as to what happened to that group.
I really like that as they were going to the tunnels right before they find the settlement, you get to see more of what you were just mentioning, that Ellie maybe has a little bit of protection in her now because Joel gives her permission to bring out the gun. Yep. He's like, first of all, get your gun out. And she's excited. She's like,
yes.
Oh, wow, like you're asking me to.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm with you now.
Yeah.
All right. And as they start walking down the tunnel, if you notice, she puts her arm around Sam.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I didn't notice that.
I got you.
I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's becoming a little protector. You know, she's emulating Joel. She likes the violence that he's capable of. She wants to be capable of that violence and able to survive.
And you get to see that theme play out more in this little settlement, which, like he says, kind of like a school, which is like crayon drawings all on the wall. Because if you notice, one of the crayon drawings has 2 armed soldiers, and it says "Our Protectors." So clearly, some adults were down there trying to help these kids survive and teach them and keep them safe underground. Can you imagine that lifestyle?
I mean, less scary than what was going on above ground, I guess, at that point.
Yeah.
Especially with how Fedra was treating people and the infected on top of everything else.
Right. Yeah.
So they stay in there for like overnight or a few hours. Basically, they're waiting till morning. Ellie and Sam, they find out that they're into the same comic book. She's like, oh, I have these issues. What issues do you have?
Savage Starlight.
Yeah, Savage Starlight.
The game players will know. That was something that Ellie would find these comics throughout the game and was really excited. She's like, I collect these. I love these. Yeah. So it's cool to see them play that into the show.
Yeah, and it makes their bond even stronger.
As she's sitting there with Sam, you know, she looks him right in his face. I guess she's thinking maybe he can read my lips if I talk slow enough. And she starts doing some lines from the comic, which is clearly like a slogan in the comic, which is endure and survive.
Yeah.
Endure and survive.
She's learning the sign too, and they're saying it to each other.
And that's actually ends up being the title of this episode, Endure and Survive.
Yeah,
so,
ironically.
Cool little shout out.
So then they get out of the tunnel. Joel's fed up with sitting in the tunnels. They get out. They start heading towards the corner of the quarantine zone where this neighborhood is. And they're walking. They feel like they're scot-free. You know what I mean? There's nothing around them. It's quiet.
Yeah, Henry's already celebrating. He's like, see, I told you my plan would work.
Yeah.
All we got to do is walk down past this house and
get to the bridge, and we're gone.
We're out.
And then, boom, you hear a shot.
Right.
And then, boom, you hear another shot. And in the distance, you see a light flashing in one of the windows.
A high window in a house.
So you obviously know that there's a sniper, which is another moment in the video game, which was really, really cool.
Yep.
Joel realizes that this sniper isn't the best shot in the world. So he kind of gathers himself, tells everybody to sit in place, and he's like, I'm going to go to the house. I'm going to take care of business. So Joel runs to the house, gets up to the attic, and you realize it's like an old man. And Joel has a moment there, which I really loved, where he was like, look, put your gun down, sit here for an hour, just let us pass. Nothing needs to happen.
Right.
And the old man sitting there with his rifle in his hand, and Joel's like, don't do it. Yeah. He was like, please don't do it, man. He's like, I'm tired of killing people. Yeah. And then the man motions like he's going to point the gun at Joel, and all you hear is the gunshot.
Another great editing moment. Yeah, all you see is just he just barely starts to turn, and what's
Joel
happening.
took care of business.
Joel took him out.
And then he takes him out, and then Joel hears a little radio call under him, picks it up, and Kathleen's on the way.
Yeah.
So this guy is obviously working with Kathleen, let him know, hey, I found Henry and Sam. They're right here. I'm going to hold them down. So she's on the way. And all you hear from Joel from the window is, run! And everybody's like, they're really far away at this point. So they're like, what is he saying?
Yeah.
And then off in the opposite distance, you hear the rumbling of the trucks approaching.
Big military trucks.
Yeah, so you see like the truck with the snow plow in front of it. You see it do its work. It's knocking all the cars out of the way. Kathleen and her squad are there. They jump out of the car. They know that they're close. She's just kind of talking to Henry because she knows he's nearby. And eventually Henry...
They're hiding behind one of the cars. They got pretty close to the house where Joel was, but didn't quite make it.
Nope.
And now all the soldiers are standing out there.
Yeah, there's probably 100 guys out there.
She's like, you better come out. Come on.
He kind of gives himself up. His whole MO is basically just let the kids go. Let Sam and Ellie go. They're not a part of this. And Kathleen is ruthless. As you can see from the scene with the hostages, she's like, if you tell me, I won't kill any of you. And she ends up killing all of them. So she's a cold heart. She has no sympathy for anybody. She's on this path of revenge for her brother, and nothing is going to stop her.
And she explains, which that we failed to talk about this scene a little bit earlier, but when they are in the little school in the tunnel, Henry tells Joel that, well, I kind of didn't tell you the full story before I lied. I have killed someone. And you find out it wasn't direct, but he does tell the story that he was the one that gave up Kathleen's brother. And we find out that Kathleen's brother was the leader of the resistance.
And apparently a really good man.
Really good man. Yeah. He explains to him that he said, look, my brother got sick with leukemia, which helps us kind of understand maybe why it was the doctor who was helping Sam and Henry. And the only medicine he could get was from Fedra. So it makes a little more sense why maybe he was working with the doctor. He probably let the doctor know my little brother has leukemia, or really the doctor, I'm sure, let him know. Your little brother has leukemia, he needs this medicine. And so this is why we find out that Sam and Henry were collaborating with Fedra. And he tells him that, yeah, he was a great man. And he totally understood why he sold him out for his little brother and forgave him. He forgave him. So now, cut back to when we're in the scene and Kathleen has him cornered on the street there. We know that Kathleen doesn't care. And she knows. She says in a scene earlier with Perry, that you get a little tender scene where she's back in her family home and Perry finds her there. And she's just having all these memories of her brother growing up with him and what a great guy he was and how he always protected her and took care of her. She knows that he wanted them to forgive Henry for what he did, because he did what he had to do for his loved one. And she ain't having that.
She says
revenge is really taken over.
She says he did all these things for me, but I was never that. I never had any of that in me. So she's basically the polar opposite of her brother. Right. So she's finally got Henry in front of her gun, just like she wants to. She's about to end it.
Henry says too. He says, "Look, you know what? It was for a kid. He's just a kid."
Yeah, she's like, "Kids die all the time. Kids die every day."
Maybe he was supposed to die, and I love it. You know, she says this line: "Do you think the whole world revolves around him? You know, is he that important?" And it's like it makes us think. That's what this whole thing is about, right? It's like Ellie is. It's just about this one protecting this one person. Is it that important? So you really see how Sam and Henry's story kind of mirrors Joel and Ellie's.
Yep. You know? It is his whole world. Like it is worth the world ending for me to protect Sam. Obviously, he's going to do anything he can for him. So then we get a little Deus Ex Infectima moment there. So then she's about to shoot Sam. And one of the trucks that crashed into the building starts like collapsing into the ground, and it makes
it caused a fire when Joel shot this guy when he was driving in, crashed into the house. The house is on fire. It's like they don't care while they're talking.
No,
house is burning. I don't care.
The truck is going in, and it's making so much racket that everybody stops and turns. and then the truck falls into this huge hole.
That a sinkhole is basically opening up in the ground under this burning house.
And then eventually all of the infected that have been underground come out all at once. And what I loved about it is a lot of the infected that play in the scene are kids, and harks back to that moment underground. Who was underground then? Probably a bunch of kids.
Right.
So they obviously had gotten infected and pushed back when Fedra was clearing out those tunnels. So it's a big group of kids and also a bloater. So you get to see a big guy. So one of these 20-year-old infected that are, have been walking around this whole time. Obviously the infection has come out so much in their body that it's basically become armor for them. And the way that it plays out in the games is if you're a bigger person with a little more fat content, the infection is able to survive in you a little bit longer than if you're just like a kid or a normal person. So the bloaters all tend to be really big people, and this is a big guy, obviously.
Big dude, yeah.
Comes out roaring,
and like he said, that fungus, looks just like armor all over his
all
body.
over him, and it looks great. It looks just like the game with a couple different tweaks here and there. And then you get the moment with Kathleen and Perry. Perry knows that this is it. He tells Kathleen, "You got to get out of here."
I don't think we could make this sound crazy enough. That hundreds of infected come running out of this ground.
Oh yeah,
it's an
awesome
incredible
scene.
shot. My mouth dropped to the ground. I was like, that's their moment for Sam and Henry and Ellie to kind of escape. Ellie ends up running into this car.
Into a car.
She jumps in the car. What's cool the whole time now, Joel's taking up position in the window with that sniper rifle, and he's helping them. He's firing off little shots to take out people that are near him, near Ellie and Sam and Henry. Which again echoes to the game. Once you get to the sniper in the game, you get to take over his gun and try and help them to escape. Ellie jumps into this car. One of the kid clickers jumps into the car with her, and it was kind of cool.
Super creepy. The movements were creepy. She was moving like, I don't know. It was really, really well done. I really, really enjoyed it. It was terrifying, honestly.
Yeah.
And it was like a mirror image, probably a girl around the same age as Ellie. She's having to fight her way out.
Yeah.
Eventually gets out of the car, locks the clicker in, and then ends up under the car with Sam and Henry.
These two clickers have really grabbed onto him and are grabbing their legs. They're under the car, and the clickers are kind of trying to get under the car, so they've got hold of their legs.
Ellie pops out the knife.
Ellie comes over.
Starts stabbing some necks, starts taking them out. When all the chaos was ensuing, Perry sees the bloater charging them, realizes that he doesn't have really many options except to maybe save Kathleen, so he tells her to get away.
Run, yeah.
The bloater comes right at him, and a scene straight out of the game, grabs Perry and just rips his head right off of his neck.
Literally.
Like it's nothing. Real cool way to go out. So Kathleen gets away. The kids, Henry, Sam, and Ellie get away, and then Kathleen and the three of them meet up once again.
Instead of actually escaping, Kathleen's still there.
Yeah, she could leave, she could disregard them, she could pay more attention to the infected, but she's hell-bent on getting revenge on her brother and taking Henry out. So she's got them all three at gunpoint, and she's turned her back to the Horde. She's got all this chaos going on behind her.
And guess who starts crawling up on a rock right behind her?
One of the
little kid bloated.
Yeah,
the little kid
infect-
clicker is
yeah.
like, oh my God.
Then jumps like crazy at her, bites her neck, starts pounding on her. So she's done. Kathleen's done for her.
I like that too, because they're, Joel's trying to save a kid. So is Henry's trying to save a kid. And they have this discussion about like, what's one kid to the world? So it was perfect that she got taken out.
By a kid.
Yep.
Probably somebody that they forced underground. Probably somebody that, didn't want to go with the rebel group and ended up getting infected. So all in all, it was all her fault. You know what I'm saying? As to why there were so many infected underground. And her not paying attention to it when Perry in the last episode is like, look at this underground, there's something going on. And she turns right around and is like, nope, Henry is the goal. So it all paid off in the worst of ways for her.
Perfectly.
But yeah, really poetic, really great way to kind of end her character. I also love that they put Kathleen in the show in general, because in the video game, the Hunters, which is basically this group that we meet here in the QZ, are just faceless enemies. They're just obstacles for you to get from point A to point B. Yeah. And by humanizing them, by giving them a leader and a face and a motivation. I think it just makes it all make more sense. It carries a lot more weight than them just being, you know, a group of bad guys in Kansas City that, you know, are just kind of in Joel's way. So I really loved that character. I loved how the actress portrayed her, gave her a lot of vulnerability, made her super believable. You know, overall, a great little 2-episode story arc that ended perfectly, in my opinion.
So after they take her out, they're free. You know, Henry and Sam and Ellie start running down. You see Joel's come down out of the house. He sees they made it to the side of the house. He grabs the sniper rifle. All right, got a new weapon. Runs down, and they're out. They're heading towards the bridge. So cut to, clearly they make it across the bridge because now they're at an abandoned motel. They're in the room, and you know, Henry's eating, but he's kind of shaking from what just went on. And in the other room, you get Ellie and Sam together, and they're reading a Savage Starlight comic together, right? And then they have this you know, beautiful, tender conversation because Henry walks in and says, "All right, you need to get some sleep, Sam." And he closed the door, and it's kind of like, all right, Ellie's his protector for the night. He's gonna leave his little brother with Ellie. That's cool. And Ellie pulls the comic back out, like, yeah, we can keep reading. But he puts it down, and he starts writing on his little pad. The whole time he's got one of those little, like, erase pads that has the little plastic page you rip up, and then you can keep writing on the.
I love that.
Yeah. Right. Cool. So he writes her a little message, and he basically asks her, "Are you ever scared?" She's like, "I don't know. Do I look scared?" And he's like, "Never." Yeah. And she says, "No, I am scared all the time," but then makes a joke of it and says, "Of scorpions." Yeah. Which is kind of from the game, and he just kind of like rolls his eyes. The kid's like, "Yo, I'm trying to have a real moment with you right now." Like, she realizes it very quickly, and she's like, "Okay, I'll answer you for real. Yeah, I'm scared. I'm scared of ending up alone." Oh, man, it's such a moment. It just hit me in my heart, and you can tell he's scared of being alone as well. So then he asks her, "What about these infected people? Do you think the people are still inside there? Like, are they still people?" And you kind of wonder why he's asking this question. And unlike the game now, he pulls his pant leg up and reveals to Ellie that when those clickers were grabbing on their legs, one of them got his leg and bit him. He's been bitten. And Ellie's like, oh my God. She does the most tender, sweet thing, which is she tells him on the little pad.
She shows him.
My blood is medicine.
Yeah, she shows him the scar. She's like, I've been bit.
Bitten too.
Yeah.
My blood is medicine. And she thinks that maybe she can help him. She pulls out the knife. He's like, no. And she cuts her hand open to cause a little blood. And she just rubs it along his leg, along the wound. And I was like, I don't think that's going to work.
Man, but deep down I was hoping it was, man. Because I know they're deviating from the story a little bit. And I was like, well, God, this would be great if we could have a little bright moment and this actually works. And then Sam asks her, can you stay up with me? And she's like, yeah, no problem. Right. So then we cut to the morning. Ellie's on the chair. She's falling asleep. She wakes up and sees Sam on the end of the bed. He's just sitting there. She calls out to him, but he obviously doesn't hear her. Then she walks up, puts her hand on his shoulder, and he's gone. He's infected. He attacks her. They pop out of the room into the room with Joel and Henry. Joel goes for the gun, but Henry gets it first. Joel tries to run to stop Sam. Henry shoots at the ground. In front of him, So he's like, nope, you're not touching him. He's still trying to protect Sam, even to the last moment. And
Sam's all over Ellie. Yeah. So it's like, you got to do something.
Yeah, so he's really going at Ellie. Henry in that moment does what he has to do, and he shoots Sam and kills him. And then comes to the realization of what he did, and he can't handle the thought of it and turns the gun on himself. And you don't see it, you just see Ellie's reaction. I love that shot. It's just of her face, and you just hear the shot and the thud of his body hitting the ground. And that's it. We cut to Joel and Ellie burying their bodies. When they were in the room and Ellie puts her blood on his leg, she's like, this is gonna work. I promise this is gonna work. You're gonna be fine, I promise. Obviously, that didn't come to fruition. She sets the little pad on Sam's grave, and all it says is, "I'm sorry," because she realizes that her promise, you know, she wasn't able to keep that promise. Yeah. So
Ellie walks away. She asks him what direction is west. He's like, that way, and she starts walking without him. She just takes off. And he's sitting there and he sees what she wrote on that pad, "I'm sorry," and it's like now she sees what it's like to have to try and protect someone and care about someone, and you can tell he's starting to care a lot about her as well, you know.
And then Ellie, in a moment of none of this bothers me, I'm ready for all of this, you know, puts her backpack on, starts walking west, and tells Joel, come on, let's go, let's keep it going. So her ability to shrug it off, her ability to internalize all that stuff, just shows how capable she is. And I think we hark on this every week, is we're just building to, you know, this moment which is going to come at the end of this season where, you know, all that's going to come into play. All the ability to do what you need to do when you need to do it, the ability to protect the people that you love.
Amazing episode.
Yeah, amazing episode. I mean, the director is the same one from last week. He did really good job on this big scale, big fights, a lot of people involved.
One of my former editors when I went to film school, Rachel Fowler Mendez, works for a company called Elastic, which did the main title designs.
Very cool.
On this show. So she edits those titles every week and was very excited to put her wife in the titles this week because her wife, Emily Mendez, was the co-editor on this episode. So far, each of the first 4 episodes were edited by Timothy A. Good, and he is Emily's mentor, and she got her shot, and she has now edited one of the greatest episodes of television ever.
Yeah.
So shout out to Rachel and Emily.
Very cool. Yeah. Good job. I mean, the editing of the show has been phenomenal, and you know, once award season comes around, I hope everybody gets the recognition that they deserve.
Absolutely.
But yeah, let us know what you guys think. Tell us what your favorite moment of the episode was. Please leave a comment, like, and subscribe. We'd love to hear from everybody. Thanks a lot for watching this week, guys. We really appreciate you tuning in week after week. We'll catch you next week for episode 6.
So for GP Entertainment,
I'm Anthony.
and I'm Gooch.
See you next week, guys.